The morning Ethan saved her life, he didn't even know her name, only that the trembling soldier in front of him was about to fall, and that helping her would change his world forever. The hallway of Westford Military Medical Facility was usually quiet at dawn, but that morning, the stillness felt heavier. Ethan Vale pushed his mop slowly across the tiles, humming a song only he and the empty corridor could hear. His worn janitor uniform smelled faintly of lemon cleaner, and the bucket wheel squeaked every few feet. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid just enough to keep the lights on at home for him and his 10-year-old daughter, Mara. And on mornings like this, when the sunrise melted gently through the frosted windows, Ethan felt the calm he rarely found anywhere else. He was turning the corner near Ward C when he heard it, a faint, shaky gasp. He froze. Another sound followed, softer this time, like someone trying not to be heard. Ethan slowly set the mop aside and stepped forward. A young soldier stood halfway down the corridor, bracing herself against the wall. Her uniform sleeves were wrinkled, her name tag half hidden beneath a fold. Sweat glistened on her pale skin despite the cold. Her jaw was clenched so tightly Ethan could almost feel the pain radiating from her body. She looked like she'd been awake for days. Before he could speak, her knees buckled. Ethan rushed forward, catching her by the arms just before she hit the floor. She was shaking, cold, exhausted, and clearly fighting something far deeper than fatigue. Her breath hitched as she tried to stand again, but her legs refused. "It's okay," Ethan whispered gently. "I've got you. Just breathe." She flinched at his touch as if she expected to be reprimanded, but when she met his eyes, something in her expression softened. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it was the beginning of something fragile. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice was barely stronger than a whisper. "Just dizzy." "You're not fine," Ethan said, steadying her as she struggled to stay upright. "Sit before you drop." He guided her to a nearby bench. The soldier resisted at first, training, pride, instinct, but eventually she let herself sink down. Her hands trembled uncontrollably as she pressed them to her lap. She looked so young up close. Maybe 24, 25 at most. Yet her eyes carried the haunted weight of someone who had seen things far older than her. "Do you need a medic?" Ethan asked softly. She gave a tight shake of her head. "No. I told them I was cleared for duty. I'm okay. Just need air." But even as she spoke, she winced, clutching her ribs, and Ethan knew she wasn't telling the truth. Ethan crouched down so they were eye to eye. "Look, I know I'm just a janitor. But I know when someone's hurting." Her lips parted slightly in surprise. Most people didn't talk to soldiers like that around here. They either avoided them entirely or spoke with overly formal stiffness, but Ethan spoke to her like a human being. She looked away, blinking hard. "It's just the meds. They make my heart race." She exhaled shakily. "I'm supposed to report for discharge today. I can't look weak." Ethan frowned. "You nearly collapsed in the hallway. That's not weakness. That's a sign you need help." Something about his steady, grounded voice soothed her. She drew in a slow breath and let it out, the trembling in her hands gradually reducing. "You're kind," she whispered, the words slipping out before she could stop them. "I just don't like seeing someone fall face first onto the floor on my shift." He joked lightly. "For the first time." She smiled, just barely, but it was there. "Thank you." She paused, realizing she didn't know his name. "Ethan," he said. "And you?" She hesitated. "Then, Lena. Just Lena. No rank. No details. Nothing that would explain why she looked like she'd been carrying the weight of the world alone." He didn't push. After a few minutes, her breathing stabilized. She stood carefully, testing her balance. Ethan stayed close, ready to catch her again if needed. But she steadied herself. "I should go," Lena murmured. "I have to sign my discharge papers." Her tone was flat, almost hollow, as if a part of her dreaded what came next. "Promise me you'll walk slowly," Ethan said. She nodded once and began moving down the hallway. Ethan watched her go, feeling something tug deep inside him, an instinct he rarely listened to anymore. But this time, he didn't look away. Something about her fragility, her attempt to hide it, struck him in a way he couldn't explain, and something told him this wouldn't be the last time he saw Lena. The day passed in its usual rhythm. Scrubbing floors. Emptying trash cans. Nodding politely to nurses whose names he barely knew. But Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the trembling soldier on the bench. The way her voice cracked when she said she didn't want to look weak. The way she inhaled just a little too sharply when she thought no one was watching. By the time his shift ended, Ethan realized he checked the clock more times than he had in months. At home, Mara was waiting for him like always, backpack on the couch, shoes scattered in the doorway, a drawing taped proudly to the fridge. "Daddy, look. It's you and me at the lake." Ethan knelt, pulling her into a warm hug. "It's perfect. Just like you." But even as Mara chattered about her school day, Ethan found himself zoning out, Lena's pale, exhausted face drifting back into his mind uninvited. "You okay, Daddy?" Mara asked suddenly. That snapped him out of it. "Yes, sweetheart. Just a long day." But the truth was, something about Lena stirred something old inside him, something he'd buried for years. Not attraction, not yet. More like a quiet pull. A sense of responsibility he couldn't justify. After putting Mara to bed, Ethan sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. He couldn't shake the feeling that Lena hadn't told him everything, and he was right. The next morning, Ethan arrived earlier than usual, though he didn't admit to himself why. The sun hadn't risen yet, and the hallways felt colder. He pushed his mop bucket forward, glancing toward the bench where Lena had sat. He told himself he wasn't expecting to see her, but she was there sitting hunched over, elbows on her knees, head buried in her hands. Ethan's heart lurched. She wasn't supposed to be here. Discharged soldiers rarely return so soon, especially not before dawn. He approached slowly. "Lena?" She lifted her head, eyes red, breath uneven. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. Her uniform was wrinkled again, and her hands nervously twisted the fabric near her knees. "Ethan," her voice cracked. They delayed my discharge." "Why?" She swallowed hard, blinking back tears that never seemed to fall. "They said I'm not mentally stable enough to go home." Ethan felt a deep, quiet anger stir inside him. Not at her, never at her, but at whatever had pushed her this far. "I shouldn't be here," Lena whispered. "I'm supposed to be strong. I don't want them thinking I'm broken." "You're not broken," Ethan said firmly. She shook her head. "You don't even know me." "Maybe not," Ethan said softly. "But I know what it looks like when someone's drowning on the inside." Lena's throat tightened. She looked away, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her uniform. "I don't want pity." "You're not getting pity. You're getting support. There's a difference." Her lips trembled. For a moment, she couldn't speak, then she whispered, "Why are you so kind to me?" Ethan hesitated. He could have lied. Could have said it was part of his job. Could have said he helped everyone, but he didn't, because once, Ethan said quietly, "Someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. And I never forgot what that felt like." Something flickered in Lena's eyes, something like recognition, or understanding, or gratitude she didn't know how to express. She leaned back on the bench, breathing a little easier than before, and that was the moment something changed between them, unspoken, delicate, fragile, but real. The morning moved slowly. Ethan cleaned the halls near Lena, partly because they needed cleaning, partly because he didn't want her to be alone. She didn't talk much, but she didn't ask him to leave either. Every time her breath hitched or she rubbed her ribs in subtle pain, Ethan fought the urge to call a nurse. Near noon, Lena stood abruptly. "I should go. They'll call my name soon." Ethan nodded but stepped closer. "If you ever need anything. To talk. To sit. To breathe. I'm around." She looked at him for a long, quiet moment, then she reached into her pocket and handed him something small. A folded scrap of paper. "Open it later," she murmured, and walked away. Ethan watched her disappear down the hallway, boots echoing softly on the tiles. When she was gone, he unfolded the paper. In small, neat handwriting, "Thank you. No one ever stays this long." Ethan closed his eyes. He didn't know what Lena had been through. He didn't know why her discharge was delayed, or why she feared looking weak, or why her hands shook every time she thought no one noticed. He didn't know her story, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty: this wasn't ending anytime soon, and he wasn't going anywhere, not this time, not when someone finally needed him again.